Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Wildcard Sunday, so we'll be looking at something a little bit different than our regularly scheduled videos during the week featuring specific artists. So today we are looking at Ghost Rider, Wolverine, Punisher, Hearts of Darkness. This was published back in 1991. I did not originally buy it back then either. I found it later, but I do remember them kind of mentioning this in the Marvel Universe cards, either the first set or the second set. I don't remember exactly, but this was already kind of mentioned as a memorable thing, which at the time I realized some of those cards did have memorable moments with like Frank Miller in the 80s or late 70s, and then some Kirby stuff from the 60s. This was pretty recent, so I think there was a bit of marketing involved there and just throwing that into the cards as if this is a classic moment, just like those other ones, by association. Nevertheless, this is a pretty entertaining comic all around. It captures kind of that dark Marvel vibe right before Image Comics that was kind of being created in around those early 90s there at Marvel. It also features some of the, basically these, let me fold this out for you so you can see all three guys, right? Basically your three most popular, what we would deem, I guess, anti-heroes at that period. So, those willing to kill, I guess, is what they're implying here. The Wolverine with his claws, right? The Punisher with his guns, and Ghost Rider, well, he's a demon from hell, so he's not, super nice, I guess. So all considered anti-heroes at that time, really hot and popular as well. So I guess that's why they kind of created this. They did get a pretty awesome creative team on this. Howard Mackie is the writer. John Romita Jr., clearly, I guess you probably figured that out, is the artist or the penciler. And in this case, we've got KLAUS JANSON inking him, which I think is awesome because I think his kind of scritchy, dirty style kind of really complements John Romita Jr. style as well. And just so you guys can see parts of it, because this thing is so huge, it probably won't show up on camera completely, but this is not even a triple gatefold, but I guess you would call it a quadruple gatefold. Let me see if I can center this as best as I can, and that's about the middle. Yeah, so if I kind of, I guess, scan it through real quick, you get to see the full scope of this one. So that's pretty cool. That'd be a nice poster to have without all the logos and stuff. So yeah, great. Once again, quadruple gate cover. Now we're gonna crack it open, have a look inside. So the premise here basically is that these guys, as we talked about, are the anti-heroes. They're willing to kill and stuff, so they're a bit on the darker side of stuff. And basically you'll meet Blackheart, and he's trying to kind of bring them over to the dark side. That's the basic gist of the story here. So it starts off with a satanic cult and an actual human sacrifice, which is surprising in a kid's comic, but I do think this was maybe geared to a slightly more mature audience of, 12 to 13, I'm messing around, but I mean, this is the kind of stuff you would see in a lot of horror movies back in the day in the 80s and 90s. I think we're all used to this kind of imagery, right? And I would qualify this comic pretty much definitely as a horror comic. So there you go. We use the blood to summon Blackheart, who is the son of Mephisto, who is the devil in the Marvel Universe, right? Love the design, just kind of weird and freaky, which is awesome. Very different from anything we've seen before, at least for me. The body hair is well done, and it's very, like, the inking, the KLAUS JANSON inking totally complements this specific demon look, right? I just think that's awesome. Yeah, this splash is pretty cool. So Blackheart's in town, and we have Danny Ketch, I believe is his name, Ghost Rider, right? At this period of time, he was the newer 90s version of Ghost Rider, not the Johnny Blaze version that originates, I believe, from the 70s, maybe late 60s. And for some reason, I think he's called here, compelled to go here, right? Kind of living in some sort of Airbnb boarding house, Comes down for a meal. And of course, these two gentlemen, odd looking, both of them, right? Standing there. Well, not standing, but actually sitting and drinking and eating. And coincidentally, right, obviously we know that this is Frank Castle, this is Logan Wolverine, and we've got Danny Ketch. So all the three characters kind of reunited here. And I do think I will throw in that I think it's funny. The 90s kind of hairstyles and stuff, and the looks Definitely kind of a bit of a time capsule here. Occasionally, though, Janson will do stuff where, like, when I look at this panel, it doesn't look like John Romita Jr. at all, as opposed to maybe something like this, right? It feels a little more like illustrative and Neil Adams-y here, and then more traditionally slightly blockier and cartoonier John Romita Jr. So I don't know what's going on there. You know, having KLAUS Janson ink, John Romita Jr. always evokes at least a little bit of some Frank Miller, I find. So maybe these two shots here is where it's maybe a little bit more obvious, right? I think so. And I don't think he quite completely, you know, squared off the look, the big kind of broken nose look. He's kind of playing around with it here, but it gets really crazy in Punisher War Journal, which is a bit after this. I feel like he's still kind of drawing the classic Frank Castle look, the Mike Zeck kind of look, I guess. This looks very Mike Zeck to me. I also like John Romita Jr.'s Wolverine, Logan. And basically what happens here is all three in their rooms will be confronted eventually by Blackheart. And he's kind of trying to, again, bring them all over to the dark side. So you got Punisher here, Wolverine reacting in a, you know, pretty typical Wolverine fashion. Just the ink, the quality of the ink, the dirtiness of it, the grittiness, like I love it. Clearly white medium was used on top of this. You know, he's going for it with the hatching, the big thick lines, which weirdly enough, I will say that there's some sort of a reminder to me of Sam Keith a little bit, and obviously not quite as cartoony, but I would argue that some of these thick lines and hatching is very similar, especially here on the fists and stuff. Just, I like, because it's a horror story, I think it works completely with this whole gritty style. It makes sense, right? That it's not all clean and, you know, typically comic booky. That's what I like about the art in this book. It's a very gritty, dirty John Romita Jr. But that works, right? Always great, like compositions and shots and poses and stuff. That never a miss there. I mean, just how dirty it's getting. The background here, when obviously it makes sense when this guy, I think he does it for that reason, right? He's like, well, this guy's from hell, you know, everything's just you know, brimstone and smoke and stuff, right? And it totally evokes it. It's kind of like you feel like you'd be choking around this guy all the time, right? Just dirt and pollution in the air or something. At least that's what this evokes. I think it's really well done. And some of that is definitely up to John Romita Jr. For sure, KLAUS Janson, he has that gritty style, but, you know, it starts with the layouts and the underdrawing and stuff. And John Romita Jr., I'm sure, put in a lot of this information. Maybe he's known to use the side of the pencil a lot. So, you know, it was up to, after that, KLAUS Janson to figure out how to, you know, translate that into inks, which I think he did pretty well and masterfully for the type of story that this is. Yeah, Wolverine always looking pretty cool here. Frank Miller, Frank Castle, the Punisher, just slowly morphing into the John Romita Jr. version. Every shot of Blackheart is just kind of, you know, straight out of what's the Hellraiser, right? Pinhead movies and stuff, and that kind of vibe. Like, you know, this story would make a pretty cool movie if it was made back in the 90s, like 91, 92, you know, no CGI, just like real costumes and stuff, some sort of dust in the air to create this effect, right? Actors contracting lung cancer. Obviously, I'm kidding. So yeah, and again, the contrast here, I feel that, you know, Janson is consciously, once Blackheart is out of there, and all that grit and smoke has kind of, you know, evaporated, disappeared, he goes for a much cleaner look overall, right? There's always a bit of grittiness to Janson, no matter what, but definitely cleaner and less gritty and dirty than the prior pages that we were looking at, which is a great contrast. And the colorist is following that too. I do want to say the colors on this, it's printed on good quality paper, right? It still absorbs a bit of the black, which I like, instead of the black that's printed on glossy paper that's, you know, super, super lustrous, dark black. I do prefer this kind of subdued black from late 80s, early 90s comics. And on this quality of paper, it definitely works. Like all the coloring and stuff, pretty simple, not too much fancy stuff, but, and I mean, it's just a kind of quick, slightly throwaway panel, but what a nightmarish image there, right? So Daniel's trying to help out the Wolverine and the Punisher, and can't find his bike, right? And of course, Blackheart has it. So what's Danny Ketch gonna do? So Blackheart's kind of hypnotized this whole crowd, a bunch of zombies. You know, Wolverine and Punisher are trying to get the little girl that he kidnapped back. More of that great, like sometimes he kind of looks like a skull, like here. I think the design of Blackheart's really cool, really nightmarish. Great storytelling overall. John Romita Jr., I'm not gonna, he's no slouch. So this is kind of an important story point. So somehow she's like, oh, let me go. Ow. Somehow, I guess part of him is prickly or something, cuts her arm. And of course, Danny Ketch gets a bit of her blood on his face, right? And the whole Ghost Rider spiel, if I'm not mistaken, was something about not letting the blood of innocence be spilt. I'm paraphrasing, right? But there was some sort of thing that he said there. And of course, all this to lead us to the fact that he thinks it might be, for some reason, a motorcycle that helps him, but then realizes it's just actually inside of him that the transformation happens. He doesn't have to have contact with his actual mystical motorcycle to transform into Ghost Rider. So it was inside of him all this time. So that's kind of an interesting revelation, because if you, back in the day, were collecting the original 90s, this version of Ghost Rider series, I don't think that was revealed in the regular series. I guess it was revealed here first. Sure seems that way. And then we just get a super awesome double page splash of Ghost Rider, obviously using this motorcycle at his disposal. So a little different than the design. I feel like they kind of made it was some sort of reason to maybe have him ride a bike that resembles more the old school Ghost Rider's motorcycle. I feel like maybe that's what they're going for. I feel maybe this is part of the design somehow of Johnny Blaze's motorcycle back in the 70s. I could be wrong, but let me know, any Ghost Rider aficionados out there, in the comments. Yes, fucking A. Wolverine smoking. I love shots of Wolverine smoking. That stopped after a while in the late 90s. But again, I've said this before in my argument. If ever there's a character who, should smoke, considering his powers and stuff, as well as, who's the other guy? Nick Fury. The Thing, I don't know. I mean, I do like seeing him have the cigar and chomping on it. I just don't know what he's made of on the inside. Is he strong enough, or can he heal from that? We know Wolverine can, and Nick Fury can. So bring back smoking Wolverine and smoking Nick Fury, please, Marvel Comics. I thought this was interesting. They're running through some, I guess, they've been blocked off, and they're running through some prickly kind of plant of some sort. So they're all getting cut up, and Ghost Rider just blazes through there. Very cool. Very dirty. Once again, we're back in Blackheart's world, so it's starting to get, Wolverine. You could see, I like that, right? You can actually see that they're all cut up and stuff. I imagine Wolverine's bottom part of his face is going to heal, but Castle, hopefully, the Punisher should stay with some of those for part of the story here. So, of course, now we have Blackheart taunting these guys. So the Punisher sees the death of his family, right? Wolverine sees his adamantium, skeleton. So maybe a minus here for the colorist, because that should have been colored metallic, according to what they're talking about here and what it's meant to represent. Or maybe they assume that the claws are metal, right? And not the bones. But anyways, the whole thing should be metal, for accuracy's sake. This is always a very funny kind of depiction of Zarathos, who's supposed to be like the Ghost Rider demon. Yeah, just kind of funny in this whole comic here. Oh, these creepy little guys coming out from the ground, I guess straight from hell. That's a nice touch. John Romita Jr. is one of those artists I find that, comes up with his own kind of designs to, creatures and aliens and stuff that are distinctive and interesting. I would definitely say these characters are interesting. His monsters and the Eternals and stuff, like he's good at that stuff. I mean, he's good at channeling that Kirby energy, which I like as well. I think we're getting a lot of it on these pages here. And the imagination when he's drawing panels and creating other worlds and stuff. This version of Hell is, pretty cool, pretty evocative. And of course we get the money shot. Ghost Rider beating the crap out of Blackheart. Again, in the inking, pieces of Blackheart just kind of being blown apart and breaking away. Half his face is gone here. That's cool. It's like the ultimate canon movie, right? If they had made this, like, it would be awesome. And even here, it gets so gritty. I feel like there's almost like some Sam Keith here again. I mentioned it earlier, like, so close, right? In the textures and stuff. And I know it's that Sam Keith actually uses these textures generally on Wolverine, and he does make them fairly dirty. And here specifically, John Romita Jr., Wolverine's been cut up and he's very dirty and stuff. So, it's more having to do with the storytelling than trying to copy Sam Keith. But I don't know, somehow there's, even in the hatching and stuff, I do wonder. Obviously, KLAUS JANSON maybe has a role to play in that, right? He is the inker, so bit of a mystery there. But I do feel there's a huge Sam Keith vibe in this Wolverine, oddly enough. Not on purpose, probably. So Blackheart gets broken up and blown away. Ghost Rider says, I'll stay back here so Blackheart doesn't follow you guys. Bring the girl back home. And finally, Mephisto shows himself. Not the classic version we're kind of used to, but the one, John Romita Jr., I think he elaborated this kind of version in Daredevil, if I'm not mistaken. His run with Ann Nesenti. And what I like about it is, again, I was talking about earlier about John Romita Jr. creating distinctive monsters and creatures and, aliens, otherworldly characters and stuff. This version of Mephisto, I think, is great. Once again, there's a bit of a resemblance with the out of control hair here with Blackheart, but little touches, like the tongue is a fairly obvious one, right? I think it's cool, but he's got kind of a lizardy, chameleon face there, and just these long hanging nipples. Just isn't that gross? Like, just super gross. But I think it's an interesting detail. As an artist, I like it very much, but it's just really disgusting. Long, limp, noodly nipples. It's just gross. And it is a bit funny that it's just a bunch of people down here by his crotch, so I don't know what's going on there, if that's, Hell's version of the crabs, or some sort of venereal disease that Mephisto has, or, the worst torture you can have is to be stuck in some sort of orgy with Mephisto's giant schlong. Just a cool, funny, out there idea, just like the nipples. Yeah, I like it. Weird stuff. I like weird, odd stuff. I think this shot is just really cool, right? That kind of ultimate light here, the movement and everything. It's just the fact that he's got Ghost Rider's fire being pushed there, I guess, but some sort of wind or force, right? I think just that panel is just really well done, really evocative of what you want it to evoke. And, the whole thing of, the whole gist of the story here is kind of summed up in this last page, right? So Ghost Rider shows up. He's back to Wolverine and Punisher. The little girl, Lucy, is reunited with her mother. So Punisher says, all this talk about us being close to the edge. What do you really think? Because this was a lot of what Blackheart was going on about, being on the edge and dark characters and all that stuff. So what do you really think? Wolverine says, who knows? And Ghost Rider, it doesn't matter if there is an edge or if we occasionally cross it. As long as the innocent are protected, our cause is just. So I guess it's that, the ends justify the means, I guess, in this case. The fact that they saved a young girl, if they're being a little bit hardcore and killing people and stuff, or at least the right people who deserve, I guess, in their mind to die. I guess that's the moral here, right? But again, it's a comic book, so, these themes can be explored. And, it's all just drawn on paper, guys. None of it is real, right? Comics do present interesting ideas, whether we agree with those ideas or whether we don't. I'm not saying I do or don't right now. I'm just saying philosophically that seems to be what they're getting at here with the anti-heroes, right? I mean, again, the general idea of a bunch of vigilantes in real life going out and stopping criminals and stuff is just it's happened before. If you guys know anything about I'm not sure which cities, but they had their kind of versions of this, and it just never ends well in real life. Alan Moore was right in Watchmen. In real life, superheroes it wouldn't work. At least that's my opinion. I do still enjoy watching movies and reading comics about them occasionally, the good ones. And I definitely think Ghost Rider, Wolverine, Punisher, Hearts of Darkness is one of those good ones. Entertaining, horror-oriented, gritty art. Good encapsulation of the early 90s here at Marvel, just before Image and the kind of, influence those artists had. on the characters and the type of characters that we were into back in the day, in the early 90s, the extreme early 90s. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Please, if you have any answers to my questions, comment below. If you have any questions, I'll try to reply as best as I can. Thank you so much for watching the videos, guys. I really appreciate it. And everyone out there, have an awesome day.
Like, subscribe, like, subscribe.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.